10 May 1945, Celle. If I tell the truth now, I will not eat. If I lie, we will not change, writes Karl in a notebook he keeps under his bed, in a requisitioned room above a butcher's shop whose windows are broken and boarded with planks stamped British. Army property. He writes it small. He writes it small. He writes it as a line that could not be spoken in the street below without consequence. He is 23. He is thin. He speaks English. The British military government has put him to work as an interpreter because the town's British officers need words more than they need vengeance. He writes a dangerous sentence. Then he hides it beneath clean ration paper and a bar of soap he has not used. The town is rubble. The town is a map of absence. The numbers are not academic to him. They are cubic meters of brick and plaster and burnt beams. The arithmetic of ruins runs down every street, a set of columns and sums in chalk dust and powdered concrete. The British occupation reports will later estimate Celle at 20% destroyed. Nearby Hanover, more than 50%. In April, bridges went down in smoke. In early May, banners, white and torn, hung from windows where party flags had been days before. He writes lines and does not sign his name. In June, he will learn to listen between words for the shape of a life that survived. He translates for Colonel H, British, 45, patient. Colonel H asks questions that presume nothing. Do you have a party card? Did you serve? Where are the keys to the waterworks? Where are the mines? Who is missing? Where is the Burgermeister? The files will later record the answers in neat English lines. Mittelstands, Trümmerfrauen, Wehrmacht deserters, Volkssturm boys who dropped rifles and ran home to hide in cellars. The war is over, but the sums keep coming. The mathematics of curfew and calories. The mathematics of guilt. The ruins are not metaphor. They are physical labor. Women in headscarves, women with rope and buckets. Trümmerfrauen. Their hands are raw, their eyes are raw. They pass bricks along human chains. They sing because if they do not sing, the silence becomes heavier than masonry. A British sergeant writes in an occupation diary, 21 May 1945, women clearing debris with extraordinary energy, men absent or watching. Strange to see laughter among this. Bundesarchiv later binds the report in a grey file no one reads for decades. Karl notes that laughter too. He tells the colonel the word rubble has a German beauty, Schutt, that it did not deserve before. The day the British trucks roll into Celle, there are white armbands on men who were not policemen a week before. New armbands over old loyalties. There is an order read from the back of a lorry with a loudspeaker, curfew at 2,200 hours. No gatherings larger than 3, no radios, no weapons, turn in arms at the schoolhouse, report party officials to the nearest British unit. The mathematics of control in an occupied town is a table. Rows, light, heating, water, food, disease. Columns, immediate, habitual, seasonal, political. Turn in your weapons, turn in your weapons, turn in your words. I will never tell anyone, Karl writes, that I missed the noise. It made us feel alive. The silence is worse. He is assigned to interview municipal workers. He sits across from men with grey suit jackets and no shirts. He sits across from women who replaced them at the offices when the men went to front lines that no longer exist. He translates the tone of the room as much as the words. He learns that translation across denial is harder than translation across languages. "You were a member?" asks the captain. "I was a follower," says the man. Mitläufer. The word will recur like a stone on the tongue. It is in the questionnaire forms, in the Spruchkammer decisions, in the way Karl's mother will describe his father 5 months later. The forms are mathematics. The Fragebogen is 12 pages, 131 questions. 131 questions. Name, date of birth, occupation, party membership number, if any, membership in affiliate organizations, dates, fees paid, rank held, activities known. Have you ever attended a meeting? Have you ever spoken for the party? Have you ever written for the party? If so, what? When? How many times? Who can attest? The forms ask for numbers, and the answers are adjectives. The Sprüchkammer will sort by numbers anyway. Major offenders. Offenders. Lesser offenders. Followers. Exonerated. The Sprüchkammer in Celle will begin hearings in the autumn. The judges are German. The rules are Allied. The mood is wary. The line between guilt and utility is thin and moves day to day. I learned to say past differently, Karl writes. Vergangenheit became filing cabinets and stamps. My mother's letters tell me of potatoes. My notes tell me of affiliations. He is both translator and clerk. He writes the dates. He writes the categories. He writes HUS, held under suspicion. He writes AO, administrative order. He learns the arithmetic of amnesties before the word is used. If the waterworks man cannot be replaced, his file moves to the right. If the locomotive mechanic has no replaced, his file moves to the right. If a no stripped of men, his file moves to the right. The mathematics of guilt meets the mathematics of recovery. In July, a boy Karl's age is led before a British interrogator. The boy was in the SA at 16. He has a wound in his arm. He was never SS. He worked a signal lamp. He is terrified. He speaks quickly. He says he did not know. He says he was a follower. He says he was conscripted. The interrogator's notes in English are clinical, spare, subject appears sincere. However, note evidence of party attendance at local rallies 1937-1939. Recommending Category 4 follower, with restrictions. The mathematics of guilt is real. The numbers go into boxes on forms. The boxes determine whether someone may hold a government job, whether he may vote, whether she may teach. The Sprüchkammer legal language is German, but the logic is a compromise born of exhausted administrators who have seen too much. Karl learns to smile at the same time as he keeps his mouth dry. He will not write his own file for 2 years. He will not need to. In August 1945, a British colonel signs a paper assigning him to a displaced persons assembly centre down the rail line, Bergen-Belsen. The name is known even then. The place is not the camp it was, but the lines on faces that pass him as he translates are the same lines any time period would draw. They require rooms. They require permits. They require food. The arithmetic of scarcity and survival becomes sharp. Cigarettes become currency. In the canteen, mess tins are exchangeable for a cigarette plus a promise. A kilo of rye bread is 8 cigarettes. A pair of shoes is 60. A bar of shoes is 60. The British Supply Office's ledger book for September 1945 records 12,000 displaced persons in the area, 6,000 Jewish survivors, 4,000 Poles, 2,000 others. Each receives caloric rations that are insufficient. The mathematics of calories is precise. Adults need 2,300 a day to maintain weight with light work. The DP camps, the towns, the countryside, all together cannot provide that every day. The hunger winter will be recorded in doctors' notes, in photographs of thin children, in Allied intelligence summaries that mention the phrase tachycardia next to the word soup. At home, Karl's mother writes from Breslau with a shaky hand that the Red Army is in the streets and the city is a new country. She writes in August from a place that will not be called Breslau for him any longer. She writes that her husband has disappeared. She writes that their building is gone. She writes a set of numbers and asks him to find those numbers in a British office. 5 people, 3 suitcases, 4 silver spoons she wrapped in cloth, to be carried west when the trains begin. He cannot. He writes back in English because it is safer in transit. He writes numbers in the margin to calm himself. 24 hours until curfew. 13 kilometers to the next rail junction. 2 brothers missing. 1 father missing. 0 illusions. Sille's Trümmerfrauen clear another street. They boil nettles. The British bring powdered eggs. He hears the sound of hammers on tin as men adjust cookware to capture more steam. In January 1946, the Sprüchkammer in Hanover examines the city's former school superintendent. He had signed his own party card in 1937. He had removed Jewish teachers. He had complied. Now he says he had no choice. 20 citizens, parents of children who passed through his schools, write letters to defend his character. The Sprüchkammer places him in Category 3, lesser offender, declares him dismissed. Then 6 months later, the provincial administration requests an exception because the schools have no qualified personnel and the winter has starved the classrooms of heat and trust. The file moves. He returns to a desk. Children read primers that say new things about old men. The arithmetic of education and political hygiene yields to the calculus of necessity. Karl records this in a notebook he has not shown anyone. He is sent to the county seat twice a week to translate lists of names. Missing persons bulletins cover walls. The bulletin board is a collage of loss. Women in coats read sheet after sheet of carbon paper. They put fingers down the alphabetical columns. Then they stand in the doorway long enough to gather a new breath. Then they return to cold rooms to heat stones in ovens. On 12 February 1946, he rides a lorry with British soldiers who smoke a cigarette brand called Woodbine that he now counts as a unit of value more stable than the Reichsmark, which is a scrap of paper with numbers that look official and mean less each week. The arithmetic of inflation is quiet. It is a feeling. Bread is rationed at 1,500 grams per person per week in January, then reduced when rail links freeze. Allied occupation records in the British zone note that the caloric intake in some cities falls to 1,000 to 1,200 calories per day. Adults faint while standing. Older men bow and remain bowed. Canteens serve thin soup. British soldiers give children tins of jam and do not tell their sergeants. Some do. Orders are posted reminding troops not to fraternize. The orders are mostly ignored, then revised. Fraternization becomes policy because humans do not obey neat lines. Karl meets a young woman on a tram that rattles along a track that had been relaid by women 3 days before. He does not ask her past. She does not ask his. There is no romance. There is a shared seat and a shared stare at the window where there is no glass. In summer 1946, 2 events rewrite the arithmetic of land and room in the West. The first is internal migration. Millions leave the Soviet zone, not yet the GDR. The second is the arrival of the expelled from the East. The figures are monumental. By 1950, between 12 and 14 million Germans will have been expelled from territories that are no longer Germany, East Prussia, Silesia, Pomerania, Sudetenland. The British in the West and the Americans and French calculate how to absorb them. The mathematics of rooms becomes furious. One British report from Lower Saxony in October 1946 states, Town of X population 24,000 pre-war, present population 42,000 due to influx of expellees. Housing stock reduced by 35%. Tension reported between locals and newcomers. Storage of bedding insufficient. 1 bath per 300 persons. Karl goes to a church hall that has been turned into a sleeping room. He sees families from Silesia with placards around their necks declaring their place of origin. He hears Breslau spoken as a dream. He does not confess that he is from there. He feels the danger in the air around that admission. He writes, the mathematics of beds per head is simple, The politics of belonging is not. The politics of expellees will become the politics of a new party, the All-German Bloc League of Expellees. But in 1946 it is the politics of grudges and hunger. Locals mutter about strangers stripping fruit trees. Expellees mutter about locals hoarding. The line at the butcher shop becomes a referendum on suffering. Everyone has a story of loss, and no one wants to hear another's. The arithmetic of grief is not commutative. Karl translates a British official's announcement that rooms must be allotted by a formula. 2 rooms per family of 4, plus 1 for an extra child, minus 1 if the building has running water. Eject the extended relative in the attic. Make room for the new family. The householder's face goes blank. He nods. He moves his mother's trunk to the shed and rolls a bed frame into the parlor. He writes, "We are all mathematical expressions waiting for an equal sign." Denazification continues. It changes shape. The Americans pursue it vigorously, then rapidly tire. The British enact it pragmatically. The French are thorough in some places and theatrical in others. The Soviets do it as revolution and revenge. In Idaho, like districts of Thuringia that are now the Soviet zone, land reform redistributes estates to peasants. In the West, committees meet. People swear they did not know. People swear they did not wear that uniform. Neighbors whisper, "See him?" He stands before a panel with a straight back. He changes his story with the weather. He returns to his desk because no one else knows how to add columns. Allied intelligence summaries refer to the mathematics of confession as an aside, percentage declaring membership, but complicity near 0. The numbers are not fair to individuals, they are fair to the trend. The trend is toward forgetting wrapped in files. In Bergen-Belsen, Karl listens to displaced persons talk among themselves. He hears Yiddish he does not fully understand. He hears Polish and Russian. He hears German used as tool and shield. He sees women with yellow stars sewn into memory rather than cloth. They bring names to him to translate into visits to British offices. "I seek my sister last seen in Gleiwitz. I seek my son last seen in a train to Mauthausen." He writes addresses on forms that go somewhere and disappear. He writes, "I am translating grief into bureaucracy." The mathematics of some guilt is not by category, it is by proximity. A German priest says Mass in a church with plus signs carved into pillars by a previous war's bullets. He mentions the dead in Dresden. He does not mention the dead in the camps. The arithmetic of public mourning is focused by survival. People need to see themselves as victims first. This is not exoneration. This is a moral economy that is also an economy. Economy. Schoolbooks reappear. The first post-war textbooks in the British zone are lean pamphlets with grey covers. They emphasize democracy, the rule of law, the Weimar Constitution's good parts, the evils of dictatorship as a general principle. They are careful. They do not tell 12-year-olds how to bear the knowledge that their teacher attended a rally in 1934 where he cheered. They do not itemize crimes. They teach arithmetic and grammar. They include pictures of the rebuilt City Hall as a symbol. They show photographs of a new boy and a new girl with clean hair. The bare arithmetic of calories before the hunger winter is not in the books. The bare arithmetic of guilt is not either. The simplification is necessary to teach. The simplification will later be undone by another generation's books that will be burned in parental fire. In February 1947, the winter is at its worst. Snow, coal shortages, thin shoes. Another British report, the situation in Lower Saxony is precarious. Morale is low. The danger of disease outbreaks is moderate but present. Black market rampant. Cigarettes continue to be used as de facto currency. suggest urgent import of wheat and coal. The coal is slow. The Marshall Plan is not yet called that. The American Congress debates. George Marshall gives a speech in June that will become shipments in 1948. Then sacks of grain bear stamps with flags attached to them. Children see stars and stripes and eat. Carl receives an offer. Because he speaks English, because he has proven reliable, because he is not listed on any black lists, because there is an absence of men who can serve, he is asked if he will go to Britain with a group of German POWs still in camps in Yorkshire to serve as interpreter among them, to work in farms and mills that require hands. The British will arrange. It is April 1947. The war is over, yet the camps are not empty. The mathematics of prisoners and labour is a ledger still open. He goes. He rides a truck to a port at Cuxhaven and boards a ship with men who smell of damp wool and old exhaustion. He translates instructions from guards who do not see themselves as guards anymore. He becomes comfortable with the habits of a camp that is not barbed wire so much as wood fences and polite Sundays. He interprets for a farmer in North Yorkshire who says the word dung as muck. He writes the word down as if it were a new vocabulary word in a language he already knows. He laughs at a pun. He does not admit to the farmer. He is a prisoner in name only. He is an employee in reality. He is a number in a file in the Home Office that will be archived as HO 213 something. Allied intelligence summaries from 1947 refer to the presence of 38,500 German POWs still in Britain in January 1946, reduced to 5,000 by the end of the year, then to 25,000 by the end of 1948. Many return to Germany. Some stay. They become gardeners, bricklayers, mechanics, interpreters, postmen. He does not stay immediately. He receives a letter from his mother scrawled in pencil on brown paper that says they have moved to a village near Celle, that a train was crowded beyond capacity, that his father's name is on no list, that a woman from 3 streets over saw him in a column on a road near Namslau in January, that nothing is sure, that she finds warmth in a stove made from a tin barrel and a pipe that does not fit the wall. He returns in March 1948. He returns for them. He steps off a train into a town that is the same and not the same. The British have replaced military government signs with Control Commission for Germany, British element. Civilians in suits are more common than men in uniforms. Germans in uniform are now policemen again. Their helmets are dull grey, their boots are polished, their eyes are slow and measured. He finds work in a city office that deals with allocations, rooms, jobs, food. He monitors the allocation of bricks to the reconstruction of a school where he learned to spell and now learns to forget. He makes a table of rooms. He makes another table of complaints. He learns what numbers can hide and what they cannot. Then comes 20 June 1948. Currency reform. The night before, the old Reichsmark dies. The morning of, the Deutschmark is born. Each citizen receives 40 marks at first, then another 20. Prices are liberalized. Shop windows fill overnight. Previously hidden goods appear. The black market shrinks. Cigarettes remain currency for a while, then become habit again. The Wirtschaftswunder does not yet have a name, but its adolescence begins with a queue that moves and a store window with tins of sardines behind clean glass. Carl walks through the market and sees butter. He sees butter with a price, and the price is not impossible. He sees a calculating machine in a shop with a man writing numbers again with confidence. The arithmetic of hope is underwritten by policies that will be debated for decades. Ludwig Erhard tells the nation to trust the market with rules. The occupying powers allow it because they need West Germany to stand. The Cold War sharpens. The Berlin blockade starts in June 1948, and the airlift begins. The daily mathematics of tonnage dropped onto a city becomes a miracle and a schedule. In Shelley, people read the newspaper and mark the days until tons today surpasses tons yesterday. The Cold War enters his rooms like a draft under the door. He reads of Stalin. He hears of Adenauer and Schumacher. He watches as the demolitions of memory become walls of policy. He writes in his notebook, "Now we add up the Russians and subtract the Americans. Added together, fear. Subtracted, accountability." School children recite new values. The memorial in the town square adds a plaque to the old war memorial that carries the names of 1914-18. The new plaque says 1939-14. The new plaque says 1939-45. And then it says victims of Germany. It does not say victims of Germany. It is a way for the living to fit themselves into sentences without breaking. The mathematic of commemoration is always emotional. Karl sits in a denazification office for a final set of hearings in late 1948. The cases are mopping up operations. The files are thick. The categories remain the same. The outcomes are predetermined by the need for administrators, engineers, teachers. He watches a judge sign a paper and then put his pen down and ask for a cigarette. He hears him say to a colleague, "If there were time, if there were food, I would send him away." He hears the other say, "If there were time, we would not be here at all." In 1949, the Federal Republic of Germany is born in Bonn. A constitution becomes basic law. The British Control Commission becomes the British Embassy. Karl begins to receive wages that he can count forward. He opens a bank account. He lines up for a housing allocation that will, maybe, someday, move his mother into a real apartment with a bathroom. He feels something like gratitude and something like betrayal. He is grateful the town has rail lines again. He is betrayed by the fact that some men who signed their names to dark documents now sign their names to light ones. The mathematics of forgiveness is not in the files. It is in his hands when he lifts the mail in a bag. It is in the one time he almost tells a British wool buyer he interprets for that his father is a number on a list he has not found. He does not tell him. The moment passes. He writes about it at night. He sees the displaced persons camp at Bergen-Belsen empty. The survivors have left, some to Israel, some to the United States, some to run small shops in German towns they never planned to see. He sees a tailor from Krakow measure a German's inseam in Hanover. He sees an old woman with a tattoo on her forearm pay for a loaf with a smile that is more complicated than a ledger can carry. He experiences moments when Germans realize what was done in their name. He sees a group of parish women file into a cinema in 1946 to watch an Allied-made film about the camps. He hears the sobbing. He sees some stand and leave. He hears some say, "This is propaganda." He hears some say nothing. He sees silence become a new social contract. He writes, "The war is over. The war is not over." By 1950, he is 30. He is offered, through contacts with British civil servants he has translated for, a chance to return to Britain as a civilian worker. The Home Office has vacancies for postmen in the Midlands. The small town in Lower Saxony will not miss him. The files will say another name. He will be replaced. His mother will be housed. She will learn to run a washing machine. He will send money. He faces a choice that is not dramatic and is therefore more dramatic than most choices. He goes. He takes a train to Hook of Holland, a boat to Harwich, a train to Nottingham. He arrives in a city that smells of coal and rain and newspapers. He moves into a bedsit near Sherwood. He wears a uniform. He carries a bag. He walks. He puts letters indoors. From prisoner to postman in 5 years is a sentence that will later be written as a marvel in a short spare line in a local paper when he retires. It is not how he experiences it. He experiences it as the distance between two kinds of paperwork. One kind asked him to put names into categories. The other asks him to put envelopes into slots. He learns English the way children learn it, by laughter and error and reprimand. He grows comfortable with a round O. He retains the German habit of precision. He arrives early. He knows the legs of the town. He knows which dog bites. He knows which doorbell never rings. He knows which house receives letters from Germany twice a month with stamps that say Deutsche Bundespost. He remains German. He is also not. He sends his mother parcels. He sends her photographs of a post office with a clock that always runs. He meets a woman named Edith who works at a shop. He tells her he was once a prisoner. She says, "We all were. Of something." It sounds like a line written for drama. It is what she says while she puts loose pennies into a tin. Meanwhile, in Germany, the Wirtschaftswunder grows. Volkswagen resumes. Coal flows. Steel is cast. VEB in the east, GmbH in the west. The files of the Spruchkammern are sealed and survive in archives. The 131er Gesetz passes in 1951 in the New Republic to allow civil servants from the former Reich to return to pensions and positions. Hans Globke sits near Adenauer writing notes. Kurt Georg Kissinger will be chancellor later with a pen that once wrote a different line. The arithmetic of incorporation continues. The Bassermann Verlag publishes schoolbooks that include maps without certain borders. The public commemorations speak of the bombings with candles, and sometimes of the camps with whispers. Karl reads German papers in Nottingham. He reads about debates over rearmament in 1954. He reads about the Federal Republic joining NATO in 1955. He returns home in the summers to Celle, to a street that now has trees that were saplings in 1945. He sees children in prams with rosy cheeks. He hears laughter that is not survival but joy. It is new. He smiles and feels a hole. He visits the cemetery where his father's name is not. He looks at a wall where the names of missing are etched by chisel. He traces a blank space with a finger. He walks home under a light rain. He does not write for a week. He collects objects. A brick from a house that fell in 1945. A stamp with Adenauer's face. A ticket stub from a cinema in 1946. A British ration book page. The bar of soap he did not use in May 1945 that has crumbled into a shard. He keeps them in a wooden box under his bed in Nottingham. In 1961, the Berlin Wall rises. The line becomes literal. The arithmetic of halves becomes the geometry of a nation. His mother writes that she fears a new war. He writes that he believes the wars now are fights of paper, not of planes. He writes, "My battlefield is the postbag." In 1963, he reads about trials in Frankfurt, Auschwitz. He sees photographs of former SS in suits sitting in court. He feels old lines vibrate under new light. The mathematics of guilt is not concluded. It is revised with new evidence. He hears younger Germans ask questions their parents do not answer. He hears an echo of his own not saying in their anger. The British neighbours know him as Karl, with a quiet drop. They do not know why he looks at firework displays on Guy Fawkes Night with a certain flinch. He does not know how to explain why New Year's makes him think of 1946's cold. He is good at his job. He knows how to avoid words when they seem unnecessary. He knows when to speak. He writes often in the evenings. He writes not as confession, but as ledger. He has taken on the habit of calculation. He calculates days until his mother's birthday. He calculates the average steps in his postal round. He calculates the number of times he hears German in Nottingham in a month. Everything can be a number. Many numbers remain false. He returns to Germany in 1966 when his mother dies. He stands in a small church near Celle and listens to a pastor speak the usual words. He wants the line from May 1945 on his lips. He does not say it. He sits in a house that no longer smells like a stove made from a barrel. It smells like furniture polish. He looks at her things and he sees the arithmetic of her survival in the items: a mended scarf, a tin from 1947 used now as a button box, a pair of gloves turned at the seams. He sifts through the bureaucratic artifacts of her life. He sees the denazification certificate for his father, marked unresolved, missing, presumed dead. Category: none assigned. He sees the housing allocation notes from 1948 with his name in the corner. He sees an old ration card with numbers that speak of lines. Bundesarchiv eventually acquires documents like these from countless houses. The archive binds them into volumes. The volumes sit on shelves. Years later, researchers will write books in which paragraphs summarize what in fact was lived minute by minute, breath by breath. They will cite occupation reports and denazification files and Allied intelligence summaries. They will tell the story with numbers and footnotes. They will do it with care. Still, there will be something that slips, the thing that cannot be footnoted, the mathematics of silence. He returns to Nottingham with a suitcase and a box of papers. He ages, he continues to walk. He delivers letters from the ministry, and letters from lovers, and letters from children to fathers. He rings bells and waits and hears the rustle of feet. He knows which doors will not open on the first ring. He reads the German newspapers about 1968. Students. Protest. Unter den Talaren Muff von 1000 Jahren. He envies them their anger. He worries about their ignorance of hunger. He wonders whether the arithmetic of their contempt will ever include the numbers of 1,500 calories and the black market price of a pair of shoes. He wonders whether the arithmetic of his caution will ever admit enough. He retires in 1982. A local paper takes his photograph. The caption says, "Nottingham Postman retires after 32 years. Once a POW." It is a neat box in a column. He smiles for the camera. The reader does not see the bar of soap under the bed, the notebook with the line from 1945. He returns more often to Germany. He sits in Celle's rebuilt square. He drinks coffee that is now always available. He watches children chase each other around a fountain. He sees a plaque on a wall that mentions Jewish citizens of this town. The language is new. The mathematics of commemoration has added a term. He hears a guide speak to a group of schoolchildren in 1989. The words are direct. The children look bored and then attentive and then quiet. He feels that the sums will never balance and must be done anyway. At night, now older and alone, he looks through his papers. Among them is the Fragebogen he filled out in 1948 for himself when his return from Britain required formalities. The first page lists his name and birth date. The second page has the question, "Have you ever belonged to the NSDAP?" He checked number. This was true. "Have you been a member of any affiliated organizations?" He checked number. This was also true. "Have you held any office?" No. He sees the smallness of his own yeses and the largeness of his memory and wonders at the arithmetic of personal innocence embedded in public guilt. He writes one last set of pages, copied from a small notebook he carried in 1945. He writes dates with places. 10 May 1945, Celle. "If I tell the truth now, I will not eat. If I lie, we will not change." 21. May 1945, British announcement. Curfew 2020. 3rd July 1945, first time translating Spruchkammer. 1. October 1945, Belsen DP meeting, name Abram G. Seeking S in cells in 7. 2012. August 1949, Basic Law Now. Papers with Black Eagle, 15 March 1950, letter from Home Office. 3. April 1950, Nottingham. Rain. He writes them again, and he adds a sentence to the first entry. 10. May 1945, Celle. If I tell the truth now, I will not eat. If I lie, we will not change. We learn to eat in silence and change without speaking. He does not know if that is absolution. He does not believe in absolution. He believes in sums and in the habit of finishing sums, even when the answer is not whole. The mathematics of his life after 1945 has been the mathematics of compromises. It has been the arithmetic of rooms, jobs, guilt, food. It has been the schedule of a postman who learned that the front line of his days ran down streets lined with doors that opened when he knocked just right. In the last notebook, dated 12 October 1990, after a summer in which the map he was born into folds itself back into one piece,